grateful that you are tuning in here. I'm not exactly sure where to begin with this matter, as I feel somewhat uncomfortable discussing my personal life in such depth. I don't want to come off as self-absorbed or narcissistic. I simply survived and witnessed multiple atrocities and beauties that reveal some of the insidious behavior behind the powers that be. I will try to keep this as brief as possible, and I'm going to also just send energies of love and truth into every word I speak, so that the full story can come through in the most effective way possible, and what will be of benefit to the soul of our collective being, because it is clear as day that we are amidst a dying world, a sick world, and I don't think we have anything to fear at all. And so please do not take what I am saying as reason to give into paranoia or, yes, exactly, paranoia about the health of our world. But I guess to begin quite simply, I might communicate awkwardly in discussing this because it's so traumatizing. It traumatized me so deeply, and it may show in my bodily reactions too. So please be gentle in your responses, even thought-wise, because I may feel it. Yeah. I survived child sex trafficking. I was born in 1999, so this primarily occurred throughout the 2000s. My mother, Hope Cullen, was my handler, primarily. I don't know fully how my parents became involved in this. I don't know. I can't remember everything, especially because very intricate forms of mind control and bodily manipulation were used on me as a child. So I'm not quite sure where to begin. John Podesta was a household name in my family growing up. I recall very drastic memories, per se, that didn't quite fit into the narrative of a happy upbringing, per se. So state of disassociation until I was maybe 16 or 17, honestly, because of the depth of the trauma, which I still can't fully remember, but what I do, I feel it in my body, honestly. I feel it in my muscles. I feel the mental programming now more than ever, and I'm grateful to be aware of it now and to work through it. But quite honestly, I don't, rather than that, I wish to say there is a very, there's a lot of information being hid from us about what the government is doing and why it's doing what it's doing, and also the technologies that they have access to. So because of the fact that most of my childhood also was spent in hospitals, with strange doctors, with counselors telling me what to believe, what to think, what to do, training me. The fact that I was starved, beaten, put in countless situations of abuse, whether it be with my primary care doctor, who weekly I was forced to go see, and where my mother would make up illnesses and he would perform genital exams in exchange for that, or the way that I was brought to parties of government elites, the upper class within suburban Washington, D.C., etc. And at these parties, these cocktail parties, there would be countless other children there, my age, I'd say like 5, 6, because that was when it was probably the worst, was between the ages of 4 and 7. It seems as if that's the time that they want you the most, where at these cocktail parties, they would, get us drunk and bring us upstairs and sexually abuse us horrifically. And other memories I have of being taken on these elaborate trips and vacations to strange islands in Florida, where there would be families I had never met before, people I've never met before. And the very strange thing that I remember throughout my childhood is these blackouts that I think most of my childhood was blacked out. And just when I put it all together, seeing that my mom would put the pedophile triangle in the little heart. If you look it up, you'll find it for the girl lover symbol. But she put it on my shirt, the shirt that I wore on the first day of kindergarten. She'd have the triangles in her earrings. The same heart would be on my backpack. The fact that I was encouraged to masturbate in public as a child, given very promiscuous clothing at the age of 6, not taught how to take care of myself, not taught how to brush my teeth or wear underwear or just clean myself. I had to teach myself all that once I started seeing other kids doing it, because I realized too that that was another thing that they were very turned on by, was dirtiness. And anyhow, I really feel as if I had to speak this because it is not a conspiracy theory, child sex trafficking within DC at all. It is my personal lived experience, and it was that before any of the news came out, and it affected my life and still affects my life to this day. I don't fully understand why my first memory of being a baby, and I told my brother about this maybe a few months ago, and he said that it couldn't be true because it wasn't scientifically correct to have memories when you're a week old, but I do. That's my first memory. I can't change that because of science. But anyhow, I remember being amongst spirits and colors and a oneness of the spirits, though. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the hands of these strangers being passed around in a circle. And there are photos of these, which is very weird too, in the baby albums. And these are all complete strangers. I do not know who these people are, who they were in my life. They weren't family members. I think my parents told me they were clients, or per se. My parents were real estate agents, which I think they used those transactions to hide a lot of the money behind the sex trafficking, because for the fact that my mom did not let me have a single moment of solitude really until I was maybe 8, and the fact that she was supposed to was working as a full-time real estate agent really doesn't make sense at all to me, because it's very clear that her job when I was a child was my handler. She took me to child acting auditions where I really don't know what happened there. My mom herself molested me horrifically in these disgusting ways every night almost until I was maybe 10 or 11, in the bathtub, in ways that I wish I could say she was just a pedophile, but I can't deny that there's something very occult behind it, that there's something very satanic. I mean, beyond the religious view, there's just something that worships the destruction of innocence and the carrying on of pain. And so, I forget exactly where I was circulating here, but yes, being sex trafficked as a child, and then what I really wish to say here is this didn't just affect me in a sense of having developmental issues emotionally and socially as a child. This didn't just invert my reality and make my life a living hell. This has made me an enemy to the state. This has brought upon chemical warfare towards me within the psychiatric realm for simply saying I was sex trafficked as a child, for discussing shamanistic reality, which I now know is being hidden from us by the powers that be, that they do not want us to understand our infinite reality. They wish to program our bodies and our genetics, whether through the chemicals in our food, the chemicals in our air, the messages on the media, the messages in the school system, the rhetoric of you're depressed, you're bad, you need to do this, to completely shut us into this, where we are now. That the government hides information on the internet, censors people, as we're seeing now. We're seeing the dawn of the grand catastrophe, or as Terence McKenna, someone I really love, would say, the Negredo of the collective alchemical process. Outside of all that, though, once I became a teenager and began facing the psychological implications of my childhood and trying to figure out what happened, because there was clearly something very off and unsettling and unhuman and idiotic, quite frankly, too. There was something very materialistic. The strange thing about my mother, especially, my father, I don't fully know what his involvement was to the extent now. I know he was involved in some way, but his place in it all is much more ambiguous to me, because I really don't. But I think that also might just be my psychological barriers, because I might be psychologically cut off from fully understanding his role, because I had to kind of be his parent when I was a teenager and I escaped living with my mom. So anyhow, I want to say this very clearly too, because this is another major aspect of the situation, is that the modern psychiatric ward is, in fact, a concentration camp. And I do not say this to discount the atrocities of concentration camps before. I say this in full reality of what they are. There is brainwashing occurring there. CIA experimentation, especially within the Washington, D.C. area. Religious conversion that is actually, in fact, pretty demonic and teaches of a fearful God that you must sign your soul over to, that is funded by Big Pharma, who does not actually wish to heal people of their psychological issues, but numb them from really healing and put them in a constant state of questioning their feelings and believing that some doctor is going to fix them when they're actually just manipulating chemicals in their brain to the point of almost being unable to function. Antipsychotic medication is proven to cause brain damage. It was originally called the lobotomy in a pill, Thorazine, the first antipsychotic. They've proven that the lowest dose of every antipsychotic is the most effective dose. Any dose higher just causes excess physical and mental issues. And yet they are prescribing the maximum dose to anyone who dares say that they are psychic or a shaman or homeless people just trying to live, or people who say, I believe in Q-Anon, or I'm a victim of child sex trafficking, or I'm communicating with other beings, or I'm accessing other realities, or I like magic mushrooms, or anything that doesn't subscribe to the materialistic, reductionistic hell that we exist within today. And those who serve themselves like meat to these vicious powers are rewarded and given the fun drugs like Xanax and Adderall, and that's a whole other aspect of the child sex trafficking rings, is the psychiatric medication and its enmeshment with Alcoholics Anonymous and medicating the child excessively. So, when I was a teenager and I began really just rebelling within my own reality, I faced some very perplexing and horrific experiences within the psych ward, in realizing that it almost seemed as if, especially these teenager psych wards, and especially these, just all of them in general, existed to serve people like my parents. Many of the other people I met there also came from very abusive households and were just sent there for speaking their mind or being into fringe drugs or ideas or having communication with aliens. It seems as if this force is so large too within the psychiatric realm that there are people who go there, disappear, and never come out, who are just left there because they're homeless, and you're not allowed to leave unless you have a place to stay, and you're not allowed to leave until you say you don't believe what you do and agree to take the medication, and agree to be monitored, and agree to say your parents never abused you, and agree to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, where you're signing your will and your life over to the care of a God that is actually the group of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is not a non-for-profit, it's a corporation that was brought to prominence by people like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. It's a very scary, scary thing to witness. Its grasp and power over the collective mind, and the fact that mental illness even exists. That idea, that construct, really wipes away the wisdom of our emotions and what them is. That it's our pure, unbridled bodily intuition trying to tell us something. And it's not telling us that there's something wrong with us. There is nothing wrong with us. It is the society that we live in. We cannot believe we are of this world anymore. I think we have to see our innate purity, but I'm just going on there. But I met many people in these psych wards. My friend Sheila, she understood, she knew some stuff about how the school system was brainwashing children and abusing them, and was trying to bring it to the EU, and was being held against her will without access to a phone, and was being told that she can't leave until she takes these antipsychotic medications. And I think from my experience, these medications cause immense brain damage. They shut off your whole body. Can't walk, talk. It's like you forget who you are. You just become a drone, really. And they send you to court if you refuse to take the medication. And when you go to court, all the nurses say, oh, she's delusional, whatever. And then you are sentenced to stay in a state-run facility, which is essentially worse than a jail, where you're beaten, raped. I've been beaten and raped in these places countless times. And also, too, I think the strange thing is, it's interesting that they bring people who are quote-unquote schizophrenic there, because they're just bringing people who see parts of reality that are going on that other people are just numbed out and can't see. So then, when you have a whole population of people who know something and understand that reality isn't just this, being persecuted on a daily basis to support a false belief system that exists to keep us enslaved to a corporate agenda that's killing our world. What are we to do about that? And so I saw some very strange things happen in these places. I saw different beings come into the hospitals. It seems as if these hospitals, Dwight D. Eisenhower made contracts with aliens in the 1950s. There's so much information being hidden from us, but it was very clear to me that there were other beings that traveled in through these hospitals, and that the hospitals themselves are almost portals, and that they're trying to manipulate our genetics with a lot of the medication and also with a lot of the belief systems. Anyhow, and I wish to say here, really, is to my best friend, Alex Lukanov, my best friend ever, was killed. They staged his death as a suicide because we were talking about Alcoholics Anonymous and its relation with the child sex trafficking rings and its relation with the U.S. government and all these other things and our experiences in the psych ward. And then I learned that he committed suicide the day before my 20th birthday, even though we spoke on the phone every day, and I had not heard from him since September 27th, and they said he died September 30th. So there are some very strange things going on. I think anyone who reads up on the Matrix and really what's going on here, I think you kind of get my point. But two, my boyfriend,
for like 4 years, on and off, very passionate. I loved this man more than life itself. Was killed by the police at 4:30 a.m. in the morning in a gun raid on March 12th, Duncan Lemp, and he was a Boogaloo boy. He was trying to start a platform for free speech. I made a video a couple weeks ago trying to channel his spirit to talk about stuff, but I felt kind of vulnerable with it, and he's still, I can still talk to him for you guys, but just what he wants to say really is go fully into this revolution and learn to code, free the prisoners, start a new society fully, and it's as simple as that. I don't want to put in my whole personal story with it to cloud what he has to say, so that's just that. But anyhow, these deaths also happened around the time when I really started speaking publicly about this, beginning in the summer of 2019. And I have a tracker in my arm. I've been injected many times in these psych wards, and I know I've had, just from when I was a kid, I just had surgeries all the time, not knowing what they were doing to me or why they were giving me surgery, why they were taking stuff out of my throat, but they didn't take anything out of my throat. They put stuff inside. Weird, very peculiar things. And I understand that some may say I'm crazy here. That's just a label. And I won't be afraid of speaking anymore, because this information needs to be shared, and there's something very dark going on, and I think we must take responsibility for our beings, for our thoughts, for our energy, and understand the power of it, but completely unplugged from what's going on. We must create a new internet without censorship, without advertising. We must begin to create new societies enmeshed with nature. We must understand the depth and the importance of the psychedelic experience and the forgotten wisdom of alchemy, and understand that there is an entire earth that longs to communicate with us, and that we are not inherently flawed or in any way. This Hobbesian sense of the selfish nature of man, no, we must begin to create a new world, and of joy and art, and really welcome in the realities at hand, and especially what we may have deemed as mad, because the idea that things are the same and normal and static, I think that's pretty insane, considering the fact that we're alive in the first place. So I'm grateful I kept it as brief as I did. I could have gone into more depth here, but anyhow, I want this video, even though it was more so just to kind of bring light to certain issues, I also wish to just state that everyone, I love you so much, and I look forward to this revolution of consciousness, and especially a revolution of our being and understanding our supernatural abilities atrocities. I say that laughingly, just to kind of, I don't know, I don't mean it laughingly at all. I think understanding the electricity in our body, the water and the God within, I think if we can really tap into these as the state is inevitably going to turn on us even further, we're going to be forced to rely on these, and we're going to be forced into nature. So we better become prepared now. And I think too, compromise nothing, because there's so much more information to be revealed. Anyhow, I'm Sylvia Placid on Reddit, although if you want to reach out to me, or my email, annaliviaplura@gmail.com. And hopefully, I know that it's all being monitored, but hopefully we can begin some type of, it's already begun really, but I think if we can truly kind of begin taking steps into creating new societies and be and just exploring our being, I'm very excited. So anyhow, yeah, I could go on and on about that whole realm, but I love you so much. Thank you.